The last one's a joke. Nickelback's lawyers. I actually quite enjoy some of Nickelback's music. I feel that they get a bit of a rough deal on the internet. And it's no surprise that I'm still standing in lines at clubs I'll never get in. I love that shit.
I am disgusted.
Today's video is brought to you by Audible. More on them in a bit. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. As always, I'm your host Simon Wamps here. Danny writes me a script. Uri Geller, psychic superstar or bent as a spoon. Danny, are you really going to spend an entire video talking about whether Uri Geller can really bend spoons with his f***ing mind? The answer's no. Like, allegedly, in my opinion, Uri Geller sounds like he could be litigious about that kind of stuff, doesn't he? Allegedly. Getting in trouble. Can you imagine the irony of getting sued because you called someone litigious? They were like, that's a negative thing. Uri Geller, though, I mean, just that guy, right? In my opinion. I think it must have been one school morning in 1989 when my mate, Pete Colley, affectionately known as Collywobble. Whoa! Wow, that's a way to begin a video. Way too much cocaine this morning.
Fuck yeah!
Oh, that was a good one. He ran up to me in the playground to ask me if I'd seen the amazing thing that was on TV last night. I assumed at first he was talking about the still relatively new Red Dwarf, but Collywobble's family had instead been tuning into Des O'Connor tonight. What are you doing? I don't know who Des O'Connor is, but I do know Red Dwarf. And it's better than whatever Des O'Connor is. This Cocoa and Slippers chat show ran for about 1,000 years in the UK. Never heard of it. Never heard of this. But the previous night's edition was notable for featuring Israeli-British psychic and extraterrestrially enhanced wizard Uri Geller, who was channeling his superpowers through the TV sets of Britain to bend spoons and fix broken watches of viewers at home. Collywobble reckons it worked too, from his school satchel adorned with the Rotherham United FC logo and a super Ted. I was like, superted? What is that? Because when it's written out like that, that's how you'd say it.
You know I don't speak Spanish. In English, please.
He pulled out an indisputably crooked spoon and his dad's old broken watch, which miraculously started working again after Collywobble had gently stroked it in accordance with Uri Geller's encouraging instructions getting beamed out from the TV. What is this nonsense? It'd be like, okay, well, yeah, take an old watch, like assuming it's a mechanical watch, and then just move it around a little bit. Oh my god, it's working again. Is that because it's got a thing inside it that you shake? That's why. That's why. That's how it works. For starters, why was poor Collywobble watching Des O'Connor tonight when Red Dwarf was on the other channel? Also, how did Uri Geller manage to pull off this incredible demonstration of the power of telekinesis which enraptured the UK audience on that night? It had all turned out so very differently during a comically disastrous appearance on a US chat show around 16 years earlier. You know where you stand with the likes of David Copperfield, the amazing Soprendo, and particularly Penn and Teller. They don't pretend to be anything other than talented illusionists performing clever tricks for your entertainment. And this is the thing. This is like one of those issues that I have, and it often comes up on another channel I do, that if you want to sell something and you're not very good at it, like if you are not very good at writing fiction, but then you write a book and you say this is based on genuine research that I conducted, people will buy it, even if it's a bit shit. And it's like if you're a bit of a shit magician, if you're a bit of a shit magician, and you say that it's through the powers of telekinesis, rather than actually, saying like, yeah, of course it's an illusion, then it's gonna, people are gonna be more enraptured by your shit magic.
It is shit, Austin.
You have to be really good to be like, no, it's magic, it's fake, I'm faking it, and for people to still be interested. Those are the really talented people. Unlike Mr. Geller here. But Uri Geller is an entirely different cabinet of dismembered body parts. His act, which largely consists of bending spoons and keys by stroking them, mending broken watches, growing seeds from his hand, reading minds, describing hidden drawings without ever looking at them, and preventing nuclear war, is not really an act at all. He claims that it's a demonstration of his genuine paranormal powers. Not everyone is completely convinced, though. One of his first major US television breakthroughs took place in 1973 when he's invited to appear as a guest on The Tonight Show. Is this the one where they don't let him use his own spoons? They provide the spoons for him, and he's like, I'm not feeling it today. Why is that, Uri? Why is that? Is it because you don't have your shitty fake spoons? You bell, in my opinion. Bell, and the host, Johnny Carson himself, something of an amateur magician, was clearly skeptical of his guests' claims and appeared to take Urie completely by surprise when he presented the psychic with a table of potential props, including spoons, clocks, and most notably a small collection of photofilm canisters, which were empty aside from one, which Urie was invited to identify without touching anything. What followed was about 20 odd minutes of teeth-grinding television, not counting the unplanned ad breaks that were shoved in to fill the void. During this time, Urie spectacularly failed to perform a single trick. Oh my god, who could have predicted this? He squirms in his seat whilst mumbling that he thought he was here to answer interview questions and that his people should have supplied the props and that he wasn't feeling the psychic energy under such hostile conditions. I have to say though, like, as great as this is, because I think all of this is bullshit, I don't want to go on a show where the host is going to spring something on me that makes me look bad. Although then I guess people like Uri Geller are not going to want to go on Johnny Carson, which I guess works great for everyone because then they don't get a platform and... never mind. This is a great idea. Well done, Johnny.
Great job.
I wouldn't describe the situation as hostile. Johnny Carson seems remarkably polite and restrained, a little dry, humoured, although his patience appears to wear thin towards the end. Well, yeah, because he knew exactly what was going to happen. Johnny Carson is he's like, obviously it's not going to work. Why is his patience wearing thin? He knew where this was going. He set him up. At one point when Uri again begs him to just ask another question, Carson snaps, what's the capital of South Dakota? This painfully obvious... I have no fucking idea. South Dakota. And the capital are always like, they're not the big city. Like, New York's probably not the capital of New York, is it? It's probably something like, I don't know, Bellintown or whatever, like somewhere we've never heard of. It's painfully obvious that Uri has visibly slipped into panic mode after being thrust into a surprise situation in which he was prevented from manipulating every detail. He eventually concedes defeat under pressure, claiming that his powers were blocked by tangible hostility. You'd think that this shit show would have sounded the death knell of a short-lived career, but no. Quite remarkably, it turned out that this was the launch pad for a psychic superstar. By the way, the capital of South Dakota is Pierre. All right. Why it's always some tiny town. Why is it like this? Like, what's the capital of the UK? It's fucking London, obviously. What's that other one that I always get wrong? Like South Africa, the capital's not Johannesburg, it's like Pretoria or something. And what's that other one? Australia. It's not like Melbourne or Sydney. It's like some random town in the middle of nowhere that they specifically built to be between Melbourne and Sydney or something. I can't even remember what it's called. Capital of Australia is, oh god damn, if this was on a quiz show, I'd be doing so badly right now. Capital of Australia. I don't know. Don't care. Born in 1946 in Tel Aviv, back when it was still part of the British Mandate of Palestine, a young Uri Geller claims to have mentally bent his first spoon at the age of 5 whilst he was slurping on a bowl of soup. He later apparently wowed teachers and fellow pupils alike by moving the hands of clocks on the school walls with the power of his mighty young mind. In one of his first books, Uri claimed that he had first become aware of these childhood superpowers while witnessing a silvery mass of light in his back garden which blotted out the sun, heavily implying that his paranormal abilities were a gift from a race of visiting aliens who presumably had something against straight spoons. He later distanced himself from this anecdote, possibly in fear that the public might not take his psychic spoon bending seriously if they thought he was just a nutty UFO spotter. But he didn't distance himself entirely from the origin story, later suggesting, there is a slight possibility that some of my energies do have an extraterrestrial connection. When Uri first began performing in small Israeli-like nightclubs in the late 1960s, much of his act was rooted in traditional magic tricks. He even admitted in his autobiography that one of the more popular elements of the act involved correctly guessing the car registration plates of seemingly random audience members, but only after he had been secretly slipped a list of all registration plates by his manager who had been snooping around in the car park beforehand. This is the thing with magic. I'm like, wow, that sounds really cool. And then you learn what the trick is and you're like, oh, it's not cool anymore, is it? It's better not to know. Just don't know. Just enjoy the magic. Yet by the early 1970s, Uri had apparently evolved from a traditional magician into the real-life psychic sensation who was demonstrating genuine paranormal abilities rather than just pulling rabbits out of a hat. His popularity soared in Israel when he got a name check from then Prime Minister Golda Meir, who had met Uri at a party. When asked about the future of Israel in a radio interview, Golda Meir had joked, "Don't ask me, ask Uri Geller." Oh, God.
Oh dear. Cringe.
How have you infiltrated, high society? How have you done this, Uri? I don't like it. This fame began to spread around the world, and as we mentioned in a recent Brain Blaze on weird military experiments, he was even invited to take part in a series of classified psychokinesis tests funded by the CIA, who were interested in exploiting his mental abilities as a military tool. Yeah, I remember discussing that and being like, Yuri, what are you doing? Don't lie to the CIA. Don't be like, yeah, I can definitely do that. Just be like, yo, CIA, is this conversation on the record? Is this private? You can't take this out of this room? And they'll be like, of course, Mr. Geller. You tell us what we need to know and we'll get those Russians. And Yuri will be like, yo, it's just not real. It's not real. Don't tell anyone, okay? You promised. And they'll be like, okay, Mr. Geller, you're going to Gitmo.
No. Wait.
The seemingly intriguing results inspired the Pentagon to pump $20 million into a broadly useless 25-year psychic program, most commonly known as Project Stargate, despite the latter revelation that Yuri's original tests had been poorly handled and open to exploitation by a fraudulent illusionist. It makes you wonder if Yuri was secretly working for the communists all along. Yeah, I mean, he did get the government to waste an enormous amount of money. Can you imagine he just leaves that meeting? He's like, oh God, they're going to waste so much money on this. Oh God, what have I done? But Yuri generally seemed more interested in courting fame and appearing on TV than pissing about with boring secret government projects that could never turn him into a celebrity. Yeah, honestly, you can blame him. Like, why? He knows it's not real. He knows it's not real. I mean, in my opinion, doesn't he? Why would he be doing the government stuff? He's not getting paid. It's not doing anything when he can go and get rich and famous. That's all right. Being rich and famous, it's all right. I mean, that's a good time for the most part. That potentially big breakthrough on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1973 initially appeared to have dashed any hopes of the profoundly panicked and perturbed paranormalist pocketing a princely profit from his precocious... I don't know that word. Perpicosely? Sorry.
Fatality.
Punctured pomposity. Yuri admitted that he returned to his hotel room that night in devastation with thoughts of flying straight back to Tel Aviv in the belief that his 15 minutes of fame were over. Oh, if only you had, Yuri. Incredibly, it was only the beginning. All right, today's video being interrupted by today's fantastic sponsor, Audible. Who doesn't love Audible? Like, I don't know. We're off the key messaging points already. But look, I don't know. I read books, but I listen to a lot more audiobooks than I do read books because I'm like, you're just out and about. I'm taking the tram to work. I'm listening. I'm like pottering around the house. I'm listening. Like, sometimes I do music. I do podcasts and audiobooks like 80-90% of the time, and I love it. Audible offers an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre, from bestsellers and new releases to celebrity memoirs, mysteries and thrillers, motivation, wellness, business, and more. You'll discover exclusive Audible originals from top celebrities, renowned experts, and exciting new voices in audio. As an Audible member, you choose a title a month, and you get to select from their entire catalog, and that includes the latest bestsellers and new releases. Audible members get access to a growing selection of titles with their membership, so you can listen all you want. The selection includes audiobooks, Audible originals, and podcasts. More get added every month. Yeah, Audible just used to be like audiobooks, and now they do all this other cool stuff that you get as part of your membership. How can you say no? Plus, there's the app, which makes it easy to listen on. Yeah, I use it's just easy. It's so easy. A book, an audiobook that I really enjoyed, and I recently listened to again. Oh, and that's a cool thing. Is that even on the talking points? Should I mention this? But like, it's not some subscription thing where it's like you get the book for like a month, you listen to it, and then it disappears. You get to keep it. So I went back through my old Audible and I listened to Total Recall. Do you guys know? It's this autobiography by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's amazing. Definitely check it out. That's a recommendation from me. So visit audible.com/blaze and you can try it free for 30 days. That's audible.com/blaze, or text blaze to 500 500. And now back to today's video. Incredibly, it was only the beginning. The next morning, Yuri was invited to appear on the Merv Griffin show and was able to deliver a rather more convincing performance in a situation over which he had more control. It seems that Yuri's failure with Johnny Carson only helped to convince a large chunk of gullible idiots that he was the real deal. You just saw him fail. Why would you be like, that seems real? If only he had his real props, then he'd be able to show us. Why are people so desperate to believe in this stuff? It's very strange to me. The fact seemed to be that if Uri Geller was just a slick magician, he would get his tricks right every time. But if he was genuinely harnessing psychic energy, his magical powers might occasionally elude him when the universe was feeling a little bit temperamental. Oh my God, people, get your shit together, will you? Jesus. Stands to reason if you want to persuade someone that you're really good at something, just make a complete casserole of it on live television in front of millions of viewers. right? Nobody seemed to be suggesting that instead of being a slick magician, Yuri might just be a slightly shit magician. Uri Geller's star shone brighter than a silvery mass of alien light throughout the 1970s and was still fairly radiant throughout the next couple of decades as he performed sellout shows and regularly appeared on cheap TV shows with a gap to fill. He's one of the very few non-fictional characters to appear on the cover of a Marvel comic as a comic strip version of superhero Uri Geller fought alongside Daredevil in an issue from 1976. He's probably got that framed on his wall, doesn't he? I don't know. I'm just like, when I see something like this, it's kind of like people who do like scammy shit and stuff. And I'm like, guys, it's not that hard to make something that people want to watch and make like a good living without like being like just become a magician. Don't trick. I mean, obviously magicians do tricks, but everyone knows it's a trick. No one's like pretending that it's, you know. Or like, it reminds me of pranks, like pranks on YouTube, like back in the day when that was a thing, and how people would fake them and stuff. And it's just like, there's real pranks. There's real good content. Why do we have to do this shitty stuff? I don't know. It's a bit shit, isn't it? That's it. That's my whole point here. Let's just move on. Although this is now brushed under the carpet by embarrassed Marvel fans, the strip was notable for featuring a small origin sequence which mirrored Yuri's childhood anecdote of encountering aliens in his back garden. So it was also a rare example of a Marvel strip based on a completely true story. Maybe there's still time for Uri Geller to make a long-awaited return in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Please no. Let's not do that. Let's please just don't want that. I feel a bit sad that it's just so stupid. Yuri also liked to rub shoulders with the real-life rich and famous and influential, including Salvador Dali, Colonel Gaddafi, and John Lennon. That is an eclectic group of people. Are you guys all going out for dinner? Can you imagine that fucking table? Uri Geller, Salvador Dali, fucking Gaddafi, and John Lennon, who once gifted Yuri a strange egg which Lennon claims to have received from an alien. I suspect this may just have been an example of dry scouse wit, and Lennon was just ripping the piss out of Yuri. I hope so. One of Yuri's most celebrated friendships was the one that he shared with Michael Jackson, although I imagine that Yuri may have overinflated this one just a little bit. I doubt that they hooked up every Friday night to drink banana milkshakes and watch the game and talk about girls. No, Michael Jackson had other plans. Didn't he, allegedly?
Let's ride and ride on the train together.
But Yuri felt that this friendship was strong enough to ask Jackson to be his best man when Yuri and his wife Hannah renewed their wedding vows in 2001. This was widely regarded as a publicity stunt for what was already a celebrity-heavy ceremony sponsored by Hello magazine. And the choice of best man scuppered Yuri and Hannah's original choice of venue, Stonehenge, as Jackson's security didn't approve. The big day didn't exactly run as smoothly as Yuri might have hoped. Jackson arrived 2 hours late on crutches, having recently broken his foot, a nasty injury which Yuri had previously promised to heal with psychic energy before the big day, but his powers had sadly failed him. What a surprise. Confusingly, Jackson later claimed that he would have made more effort to arrive on time had he known that he was meant to be a best man. It must have been a cracking speech. Holy shit. The friendship was destined to fall apart after Yuri helped set up a TV interview between Jackson and journalist Martin Bashir, which turned into an exploitative and widely criticized slice of underhand TV journalism. According to one of Jackson's advisors, the star kept a secret enemy list, and Yuri's name had been furiously scribbled right near the top. Oh my god. Keeping an enemy list is intense, dude. I don't think I have any enemies. Jesus. I mean, I think the closest thing I have to an enemy list is like people I block on Twitter. And normally it's just because like, oh, I don't like that. Go away. I don't want to see this anymore. And more importantly, like blocking people on Twitter, right? Mostly it's like, I don't give a shit. I just don't want your negative, like, hate bullshit. I don't want you to be able to reply to me so other people see that. I want to censor your freedom of speech, which is something I'm entirely allowed to do. Bitch.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yuri may have liked to mix with the fabulously wealthy, but we don't really know how much money he was raking in himself. He certainly liked to make out that he's minted. He claims that he was making $70,000 a night from his stadium shows during his 70s heyday. Oh my god, that's a lot more money today. Whilst in the 80s, he unconvincingly reckons that he worked on the side performing mineral dowsing for mining companies for a standard flat fee of $1 million a pop. I'm sure he's made a pretty comfortable living as a career as an allegedly fraudulent psychic, along with all the side ventures, which include flogging expensive mind power kits packaged, I hate this, packaged with crap crystals and the setting up of an even more expensive psychic hotline. But he's maybe not made quite as big a fortune as he wants us to believe. He's probably spent a big chunk of his wealth on replacement spoons. Oh, and he's also thrown a big lump of it on a string of failed lawsuits. Oh, yeah, no, I knew there's something about this, which is why we've sprinkled it so liberally with allegedlys. I probably should have mentioned near the beginning that Uri Geller is notoriously litigious, and he has a track record of suing anybody who questions his paranormal activities. But unless he can...
Nope, stop talking, go to jail.
But unless he can legally prove his telekinesis status under courtroom conditions, I don't think we have anything to worry about. Besides, I don't think he can be asked anymore these days, as suing everybody at the drop of a hat never did him much good in the past. He once considered taking legal action against IKEA for selling a bent and twisted stool under the name of Uri. He then sued Timex in 1991 for $2 million after the watch brand ran a TV commercial campaign which depicted a Uri lookalike completely failing to bend a fork and a key. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, these I don't feel are that unreasonable. They're like using his brand and profiting from it. I don't feel that these are unreasonable lawsuits, actually. I feel like attempting to sue someone because they have an opinion that your psychic powers are not real is like, that's not going to go anywhere. But like, if you're making someone look like someone, doesn't that feels a little bit dodgy. Uri reckoned that this was damaging to his professional reputation, but he was ultimately fined $149,000 for filing a frivolous lawsuit. Oh my God. But his longest running battles involved James Randi, fucking legend who recently died, ripped to the goat. James Randi was such a legend. So he's like the anti-Uri Geller. He locked horns with him for most of the 1990s and came out the other side a poorer wizard, allegedly. James used to be an award-winning magician himself in the 50s and 60s under the stage name The Amazing Randy, but in later years, he turned his attention to debunking paranormal activity, co-founding the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry along the way. Randy was particularly interested in exploring the ludicrous claims of con artists who were blatantly cheating the public, such as healers and mediums and psychics and Nickelback. The last one's a joke. Nickelback's lawyers. I actually quite enjoy some of Nickelback's music. I feel that they get a bit of a rough deal on the internet. And it's no surprise that I'm sure we're standing in lines that clubs I'll never get in. I love that shit.
I am disgusted.
I want a big black jet, scientist. That's right. Love it. And now he got his... That song's really weird because it's like, mate, you are a rock star. Wait, you just bragging or some shit?
You're goddamn right.
And it's no surprise that Randy eventually set his sights on Uri Geller. Randy's 1975 book, The Magic of Uri Geller, explained in detail how Uri's stunts were largely just sleight of hand tricks which could be reproduced easily by any competent magician. And that's why you make more money pretending that your magic is real. He also observed that the tricks weren't even particularly special, noting that they were the kind that used to be on the back of cereal boxes when I was a kid. If Geller is using supernatural powers to perform these feats, he's doing it the hard way. The book was later reprinted in 1982 under the tweaked title of The Truth About Uri Geller, but the psychic superstar himself wasn't too happy with either edition, launching a long chain of multi-million-dollar libel suits against Randy and the publishers and losing every single one of them. By 1995, my trusty Sinclair pocket calculator tells me that Uri had tossed away at least $200,000 just on covering the legal fees of the defendants. Oh, dude, they awarded legal fees. That means it's like, that's a lawsuit that is not very good. The Amazing Randy had actually been on Uri's case for quite some time. In fact, he was lurking behind the scenes during that infamous appearance on The Tonight Show, which he was partly responsible for laying the television trap. Legend! Randy had been hired as an advisor for the show, and he had ensured that Uri and his team were given no access whatsoever to the table of props. Uri had often been able to pull off that trick in which he identifies one film canister out of 10 that contains a hidden object without apparently touching them, but Randy had noticed that Uri always rotated the actual tray on which the canisters sat, as jostling them around a bit helped him to identify the heaviest one, which would move slightly differently to the others. There was no tray provided on the Tonight Show setup, which naturally left Uri with a problem, as he couldn't just casually rotate the whole table. It was observed that during one of those unplanned ad breaks, Uri did try repeatedly banging his feet hard on the floor as if he was enthusiastically stomping along with the background music, when it's more likely that he was making a desperate and unsuccessful attempt to rattle those canisters. Oh, Uri, no! Pretty much all of Yuri's other tricks are allegedly based on sleight of hand and misdirection. There are plenty of different ways to bend a spoon. You could potentially weaken the spoon beforehand and conceal the stress point with your hands while you're performing the magic rubbing maneuver. Or you could weaken a strong spoon in front of the audience by fiercely applying pressure to the weakest spot where the bowl meets the handle, but diverting all the attention toward the gentle rubbing motions that you're making with the other hand. Yuri will only try to identify a hidden drawing concealed in an envelope if he's present when it's being sketched, and while he makes a big overdramatic show of covering his eyes with his hand, it's most likely that his incredible psychic talent largely boils down to just slightly peeking through a tiny gap in his fingers. James Dandy was right, it's not even good magic. As many journalists have reported, if you ask him to identify a drawing which you concealed in an envelope beforehand, he would point blank refuse to even attempt it. I'm not sure how Yuri managed to bend my mate Collywobble's spoon through the TV set, although I suspect it didn't work for 99% of the audience. Collywobble probably got overexcited and bent it himself because he so wanted it to work. The restoration of his dad's old broken watch may well have been genuine, though. It's often the case that an old watch has no mechanical fault at all, it's just been stopped by a build-up of dust and gummy oil clogging up the workings. After holding it in your hands for a while and warming up the gummy oil, some watches will miraculously spring back to life. Oh my god, what? There's a reasonable explanation behind that? It's pretty shocking, isn't it? Not every time, obviously, but very few of Yuri's tricks work every time. He likes to focus on the positive result and puts the majority of bad results down to blocked energy and hostile vibes. The main point is that Yuri only ever demonstrates his psychic abilities under situations over which he's calling the shots. Every one of them could be performed by a traditional magician, and Yuri has consistently refused to demonstrate his abilities under more controlled conditions that would eliminate any scope for fraud. We don't quite hear so much about Yuri these days, although he occasionally gets wheeled out on daytime television for shits and giggles. He claimed that he would channel the energy of Robert the Bruce to help the Scottish football team gain revenge against England in Euro 2020. The match ended in a 0-0 draw, but it might have been an escape for England. Without Yuri's mental intervention, they would almost certainly have suffered an embarrassing 57-0 defeat. Yes, almost certainly, according to Yuri, allegedly. Yuri very recently issued a stark warning to Vladimir Putin that he would use every last molecule of his mind to ensure that any proposed nuclear attack would backfire, as Yuri's powers would deflect the nuclear warheads and guide them right back towards Russia. Whoa, 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 whoa. How about we don't do that? How about we just turn them off, Yuri? I don't want Russia nuking anyone, but I also don't want Russia to nuke itself. It's just no one wants that to stop. Nuclear weapons are really bad and they'll end up killing a lot of innocent people. As far as I'm aware, Putin has yet to make an official response.
And I just want to say to the Russians, I know how it is when you start getting aggressive because your dick doesn't work the way it used to.
Duh.
If extraterrestrials really did visit Yuri back when he was a kid, it makes you wonder why they didn't bother bestowing him with psychic gifts more practical than bending a perfectly good spoon. Even just straightening up a crooked spoon would at least have been a vaguely useful improvement. Yuri is largely famous for just breaking shit. If Yuri has been telling porkies this whole time, it makes you wonder why he chose this particular route. Wouldn't he have gained more respect and credibility if it just stuck to being a traditional magician instead of pretending that he had magic powers? Yes, but as we've discussed, pretending that your stuff is real, even if it's not very good, is like, it's an easier grift. Perhaps the truth is that Yuri wasn't quite good enough to hit the big time as a proper musician, and so he was forced to think up a fresh angle to his act, in our opinion. Uri Geller couldn't fake it well enough to be a traditional sleight of hand musician, and so he instead concentrated all of his psychic energy on faking that he was real, allegedly. Still not a bad trick to pull off if you can carve out a 50-year career from it, but just a spoon full of integrity might have saved him from a legacy of ridicule. And thank you for watching this video. Whoa! Wow, that's a way to begin a video. Way too much cocaine this morning.
Fuck yeah!
Oh, that was a good one.